I never imagined betrayal could be so methodically planned, documented in hotel receipts and bank statements that painted an unforgettable picture of calculated deception. My name is Michael McCord, and I'm 34 years old. I spend my days gathering evidence in my home office, building a case that will define the rest of my life. Kelsey McCord, my wife of 6 years, thought she crafted the perfect escape. Late nights with her co-worker Trevor, hidden accounts, and divorce papers demanding everything I'd built. My friend and attorney Paul Nguyen advised me to document it all, staying focused when rage threatened to cloud my judgment. I won't let their lies destroy what I've earned through honest work. This isn't about revenge. It's about justice, about standing firm when someone tries to rewrite your story with deception. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. But let me start from the beginning. The first sign was subtle. A whiff of perfume I didn't recognize when Kelsey stepped through our front door. Not her usual vanilla-based scent, but something sharper, more exotic. That unfamiliar fragrance clung to her clothes night after night, along with excuses that grew increasingly hollow. "Client dinner ran late," she'd say, dropping her keys on the counter without meeting my eyes. Or, "Traffic was terrible coming back from the conference." Each explanation delivered with practiced casualness that set off warning bells in my mind. I remember the autumn evening when the first bank alert lit up my phone. A hotel charge downtown, mid-afternoon, when Kelsey was supposed to be at work. My hands went cold as I stared at that notification, stomach knotting as I scrolled through our joint account. There were more charges, restaurants I'd never heard of, ride shares at odd hours, withdrawals that didn't match our normal patterns. The taste of coffee turned bitter in my mouth as I sat at our kitchen table, reviewing statement after statement. Each transaction felt like another crack spreading through the foundation of our marriage. Remember how we used to sit here on Sunday mornings, planning our future over pancakes and the newspaper? Now I was plotting coordinates of betrayal, watching our shared life unravel in digital timestamps. I needed steady guidance before confronting what I'd found. Paul Nguyen had been my friend since college before becoming an attorney, and his office felt like neutral ground when I laid out my suspicions. "Show me everything," he said, leaning forward in his leather chair. "Every receipt, every charge, every text message that doesn't add up." "I want to confront her," I admitted, my voice tight. "Demand answers." Paul shook his head. "That's exactly what you can't do. Not yet. Document everything with precision. Build your case first. Let truth be your weapon, not anger." He was right. That night, I created a detailed spreadsheet categorizing each irregularity: hotel charges, unexplained absences, late-night texts she'd try to hide. The familiar rhythm of data entry helped steady my hands, even as my chest ached with each new entry. Our home felt different in those quiet evening hours. Family photos on the walls became evidence of what we'd lost. The empty side of our bed mocked me with its pristine sheets. Kelsey working late again, supposedly. Even the gentle hum of our refrigerator seemed to mock the silence of secrets kept. But I refused to let rage guide my actions. Each document I filed, every screenshot I saved, became another piece of armor against the storm I knew was coming. The Michael who believed blindly in marriage was gone, replaced by someone more cautious, more deliberate. The next morning, I was reviewing bank statements when I heard footsteps on the front porch. The courier's sharp knock echoed through our house like a gunshot. Through the window, I watched him retreat to his vehicle, leaving behind a single envelope that would change everything. The envelope felt heavy in my hands, though I already knew what lay inside. When I sliced it open, legal language stared back at me in cold black type. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My fingers went numb as I scanned the demands. Alimony, half our assets, even a claim on my retirement accounts. The papers dropped to my desk as pressure built in my chest, but I forced myself to breathe slowly, deliberately. I thought of the day we'd bought this house, how Kelsey had danced through empty rooms, planning where everything would go. Now those same rooms felt like a battlefield, and I was preparing for war. Throughout the workday, I moved through meetings like a ghost, the weight of those papers pressing down. By evening, I'd steadied myself enough to lay them precisely on our kitchen table, waiting. When Kelsey's key turned in the lock at 7, I was ready. She breezed in wearing a dress I didn't recognize, freezing when she saw me seated there. Her eyes darted to the papers, then away. "So, this is how you end us?" I kept my voice level. "With courier-delivered papers and demands? What did you expect?" She tossed her purse onto the counter with practiced disdain. "That I'd waste more years while you focused on everything except me? Wasting your years?" The irony tasted bitter. "Is that what Trevor thinks?" Her smirk faltered for just a moment before returning. "Trevor's a co-worker who actually values me, who sees my potential." Interesting way to describe someone who appears on our hotel bills. Color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. "You're spying on me now? Checking my expenses like some controlling—" "They're our joint accounts, Kelsey. The notifications come automatically." I tapped the papers. "Just like these demands for alimony will come automatically, right? I deserve compensation for supporting your career while sacrificing mine." Her voice rose. "You owe me for—" "I owe you truth," I cut in, still calm. "So let's start with where you really were last Thursday afternoon. Because it wasn't at that client meeting you mentioned." She paced the kitchen, heels clicking against tile. "You're being paranoid, obsessive. This is exactly why Why you what? Started sleeping with Trevor? Started planning this?" I spread my hands on the table. "Help me understand when my wife decided to become a stranger. Don't you dare make this about him." She whirled to face me. "This is about years of neglect, of never being enough for you." "No," I said quietly. "This is about choices. Yours, the hotels, the lies, the careful planning that went into these demands." I lifted the papers. "Did Trevor help you draft them?" Her face twisted. "You know nothing about what I deserve. I know about room 714 at the downtown Marquee. I know about the Wednesday afternoon meetings that kept running late. I know enough, Kelsey." She snatched her purse from the counter. "I don't have to listen to this. Call my lawyer if you want to talk." The door slammed behind her, leaving me alone with scattered papers and cold certainty. I needed more than suspicions now. I needed proof that would stand up in court. In our home office, I pulled out file boxes we'd never fully unpacked from our last move. My heart hammered as I discovered a folder of invoices. Freelance work she'd never mentioned. Amounts that didn't match what she'd declared. One page fell free, and I caught a glimpse of numbers that made my blood run cold. My hands trembled as I spread the invoices across my desk, receipts of a life I'd never known existed. Kelsey's signature graced the bottom of each page. Consulting work, social media management, brand strategy. The dates aligned perfectly with those mysterious late nights she'd claimed were networking events. But the numbers? God, the numbers told a different story entirely. I remembered the sharp vanilla scent of her favorite candle as she'd sat in this same office, arguing that her limited income meant she needed my support. Yet these invoices showed payments of $4,000, sometimes $5,000 per month, all carefully hidden, all deliberately concealed from our joint finances. "You need to see this," I told Paul over the phone, my voice steadier than I felt. "She's been freelancing for years. How much are we talking about?" Paul's tone sharpened with interest. I ran the calculations again, though I'd already done them 3 times. Almost $50,000 last year alone. None of it declared on our taxes, none of it mentioned in her financial disclosure. This changes everything, Michael. Papers rustled on his end. Her entire alimony claim rests on financial dependence. These invoices prove she's been deliberately hiding income and lying to the court, I finished, feeling the first flutter of hope since this nightmare began. Finally, something solid, something real. Exactly. This kind of financial concealment. My phone buzzed with a banking alert. Probably another hotel charge, I thought bitterly. But when I opened the notification, my stomach dropped. Paul! I cut him off. I need to call you back. My fingers felt numb as I logged into our joint account, where there should have been just over $40,000, a balance of $236.47 stared back at me. The most recent transaction, transfer to external account, completed 20 minutes ago. She'd cleaned us out. While I'd been piecing together her deception, she'd been executing her next move. I was still staring at the screen when someone knocked. Another courier. Another envelope. This one contained a notice that made my blood run cold. Emergency motion for temporary support. As I read, each word felt like a physical blow. Pattern of financial control and abuse. Withheld access to marital assets. Deliberately undermined independent earning capacity. The room tilted sideways. She hadn't just taken our money, she'd twisted reality itself, painting me as some kind of financial abuser. The evidence of her hidden income sat on my desk, proof of her duplicity, while she stood in court claiming I'd prevented her from earning. My phone buzzed again. Paul. They just served me with her motion, he said without preamble. Michael, listen carefully. This is a tactical move, meant to put us on defense. She's trying to establish a narrative. A lie, I corrected, my voice rough. A complete fabrication. Yes, but a dangerous one. Accusations like this can stick, can color how everything else is perceived. I looked at the invoices scattered across my desk, then at the notice in my hand. What had started as a fight over betrayal had just escalated into something far worse. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. This was about my reputation, my dignity, everything I'd built. The notice crumpled in my grip as the full weight of what I was facing settled over me. The morning after discovering Kelsey's financial maneuvers, I met Paul at his office. The familiar scent of coffee and leather chairs grounded me as we spread everything across his mahogany conference table. Start with the invoices, Paul directed, sliding on his reading glasses. We'll build this systematically. I laid them out chronologically. 2 years of hidden work, each invoice bearing Kelsey's distinctive signature with its looping K. Next came the bank statements showing transfers to accounts I'd never known existed. Look at this pattern, Paul said, tapping the papers with his pen. Regular deposits, always just under $5,000. She was careful to stay below reporting thresholds. She planned this, I said, my jaw tight. All of it. Paul nodded, making notes in his precise handwriting. The concealment shows intent. But this, he pulled out a document I hadn't seen before. This is what ties it together. It was a lease agreement. There, listed as co-applicant, Kelsey McCord and Trevor Bennett. Partner status, dated 3 months before she filed for divorce. Where did you get this? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Property records are public, Paul replied. Once we had his full name from the hotel receipts, it was just legwork. The pieces clicked together like a lock turning. The late nights, the hidden income, the secret apartment, all building toward her exit strategy. I remembered how she used to curl up next to me on Sunday mornings, planning our future, while this parallel life grew in the shadows. We need one more thing, Paul said, interrupting my thoughts. Those accounts under her maiden name, we need statements proving when they were opened. I can get them, I said. I know her patterns now. That evening I waited at our kitchen counter, documents arranged in neat stacks. The garage door hummed at 7:43, right on schedule. Kelsey's heels clicked on the tile, faltering when she saw me. "What's all this?" Her voice aimed for casual but missed. "Your signature," I said quietly, pointing to an invoice. "Your handwriting. Your secret lease with Trevor." Color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. "You're going through my things now? This is harassment, Michael. You're obsessed." "No." I kept my voice level, pushing another document forward. "This is truth. Your hidden accounts, your planned exit, every detail documented." "You don't understand anything," she spat, hands shaking. "You never did. I needed something for myself, away from your control." "Control?" I met her eyes steadily. "Like hiding $50,000 in freelance work? Or signing a lease with your affair partner while still living in our home? You're twisting everything." But her voice cracked on the last word. "The only twist here is how long you thought this would work." I gathered the documents carefully. "Mediation is in 2 weeks. Bring your lawyer. They'll want to see these." She stood frozen, mascara smudging at the corners of her eyes. For a moment, I glimpsed the woman I'd married, vulnerable, uncertain. Then her face hardened into something I didn't recognize. "You'll regret this," she hissed, turning toward the stairs. "I already regret enough," I said to her retreating back. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Paul. "Mediation confirmed. May 15th, 9 a.m. We're ready." I stared at the message, feeling the weight of all those documents, all that evidence. We'd built our case on the foundation of her own deception. Now, it was just a matter of time. The mediation room felt smaller than I expected. Just a conference table, some chairs, and windows overlooking downtown. Paul arranged our documents with practiced precision, while I watched Kelsey and her attorney shuffle through disorganized papers. "Let's begin with financial disclosure," the mediator said, her gray suit matching her businesslike tone. "Mr. McCord?" Paul nodded, sliding forward the first set of documents. "We've prepared comprehensive records showing Mrs. McCord's undisclosed income." His voice carried the quiet confidence I'd come to rely on. "These freelance invoices span 24 months. I kept my breathing steady as the mediator reviewed each page. The scratch of her pen felt loud in the silence. "Mrs. McCord," she looked up. "These amounts don't appear on your financial affidavit." Kelsey's attorney leaned in to whisper something, but she waved him off. "Those were just side projects, hardly worth mentioning. $50,000 in undisclosed income is quite significant," the mediator replied. Paul produced another stack. "We also have bank records showing systematic transfers to accounts under her maiden name." The room temperature seemed to drop. I remembered weekend mornings when Kelsey would sort through our bills at the kitchen table, claiming we needed to budget better. All while she'd been building her escape fund. "These transfers," the mediator noted, "coincide with the freelance payments." "Pure coincidence," Kelsey snapped, but her fingers drummed against the table. "There's more," Paul continued, presenting the lease agreement. "Mrs. McCord secured housing with her paramour 3 months before filing for divorce." Kelsey's face flushed. Her attorney requested a break, but she ignored him again. "So what? I needed options." "Michael controlled everything." "The records show otherwise," the mediator interrupted, gesturing to our documentation. "Mr. McCord's evidence is remarkably thorough." Walking to my car afterward, I overheard voices around the corner. "Can't keep lying about the money, Kelsey. My name's on that lease." Trevor. His tone carried an edge of panic I hadn't expected. "Just stick to the story," Kelsey hissed. "Everything's under control." But it wasn't. A week later, she proved it by bringing Trevor to our temporary orders hearing. They sat together in the courthouse hallway, her hand on his arm like a trophy she'd won. My stomach turned, but I kept my face neutral. "She's overplaying her hand," Paul murmured as we waited. "Let her." The judge had barely called us in when Kelsey launched her newest attack. She stood up, voice trembling with manufactured emotion. "Your Honor, I need to address the real reason I couldn't advance my career." She pointed at me. "Michael systematically undermined every opportunity I had. He'd sabotage interviews, make me miss deadlines, anything to keep me dependent." The accusation hit like a physical blow. I thought of the late nights I'd spent proofreading her proposals, the networking events I'd attended to support her, the home office I'd built so she could work comfortably. Paul's hand gripped my shoulder, steadying me. In that moment, watching Kelsey spin her latest lie, I realized we'd need more than just financial records to end this. The judge peered over his glasses. "That's a serious allegation, Mrs. McCord. We'll set this for a full hearing." I sat in Paul's office, staring at the motion demanding a full trial. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across his desk, making the legal language look even more ominous. "Her claim changes everything," Paul said, leaning back in his chair. "Career sabotage isn't just about money. It's character assassination. The judge has to hear testimony now." My throat tightened. "Everything I built is on the line. Then we build something stronger." Paul pulled out a legal pad. "Walk me through every job she applied for, every career move since you married. Leave nothing out." I remembered the coffee shop where we'd celebrated her first freelance contract. The smell of roasted beans had mixed with her perfume as she'd hugged me, thanking me for believing in her. Now that memory felt hollow, poisoned. "I've got emails," I said. "Years of them. Me sending her job listings, introducing her to contacts." Paul nodded, making notes. "Good. What about the home office?" "Custom built. Spent 3 weekends running Ethernet cables, installing better lighting. Even bought that expensive ergonomic chair she wanted." "Keep going. Every detail matters now." The next weeks blurred into endless preparation. I dug through old calendars, finding dates of networking events where I'd played supportive husband. Email threads revealed my consistent encouragement, not sabotage. Each piece of evidence felt like adding another stone to a fortress wall. "Your testimony needs to be bulletproof," Paul warned during one late-night session. "She'll try to rattle you on the stand." I rubbed my eyes, exhausted. I keep thinking about the house, my savings, everything I worked for. "Focus on truth," Paul replied. "That's your shield and your sword." We practiced questions until my answers became muscle memory. Paul would throw curveballs, trying to shake my composure. "Did you ever express doubt about her career choices?" "I supported every decision," I'd respond, keeping my voice steady. "The evidence shows that." Some nights I'd wake at 3 a.m., mind racing with points we needed to cover. I'd send Paul text messages that probably made me seem obsessed. "Found receipt for career counselor I paid for." Or, "Remember to mention the LinkedIn recommendations." The morning of the trial arrived with weight of inevitability. I stood before my closet, choosing the gray suit I'd worn to client presentations. The familiar ritual of knotting my tie helped steady my hands. Paul met me on the courthouse steps, his briefcase bulging with exhibits. "Remember," he said quietly, "she's counting on emotion. We're counting on facts." The courtroom doors felt heavier than I remembered. Inside, the wood paneling and formal atmosphere made everything feel more final. This was it. The arena where truth would finally face off against lies. Then I saw them. Kelsey and Trevor sat together across the aisle, their heads close in conversation. When they noticed me, Kelsey's lips curved into that familiar smug smile. Trevor tried to match her confidence, but I caught the uncertainty in his eyes. Paul touched my elbow, guiding me to our table. "Let them smirk," he murmured. "They haven't seen our evidence yet." The bailiff's voice rang out. "Please state your name for the record." "Michael McCord." My voice stayed steady, though my pulse hammered against my collar. Paul stood, adjusting his tie. We'd practiced this dozens of times, but now it felt different. Real. Final. "Mr. McCord, could you describe your support of your wife's career aspirations during your marriage?" I walked through the evidence methodically. The home office renovations, the networking introductions, the training courses I'd encouraged her to take. Each point landed with precision, backed by documentation Paul displayed on the courtroom screen. "And did Mrs. McCord ever express dissatisfaction with your support?" Paul asked. "No." I glanced at Kelsey, who sat rigid in her chair. "In fact, I have emails where she thanked me for believing in her career goals." The opposing counsel tried to rattle me on cross-examination, his voice sharp. "Isn't it true you preferred your wife to remain financially dependent on you?" "No." I kept my tone even. "I actively helped her build her freelance business. The evidence shows that." The morning crawled by in a parade of testimony. Paul's cross-examination of Kelsey's witnesses was surgical. When her co-worker Sarah took the stand, claiming she'd overheard conversations about my supposed sabotage, Paul's questions exposed the holes. "These conversations you overheard," Paul pressed. "Can you provide specific dates?" Sarah shifted in her seat. Well, it was more of a general feeling." "A feeling." Paul's eyebrows rose. "But no concrete examples?" "Not exactly." I watched the judge scribbling notes, his expression unreadable behind his reading glasses. But when Kelsey's co-worker stumbled again under questioning, unable to substantiate a single instance of career interference, I saw his pen pause. The momentum was shifting. I could feel it in the courtroom's atmosphere, see it in the way Kelsey's attorney kept shuffling his papers with increasing agitation. Yet Kelsey maintained her pose of injured dignity, even as her case crumbled visibly around her. "The frequency of these alleged conversations about career sabotage," Paul continued, addressing another witness, "increased only after divorce proceedings began, correct?" "Objection! Leading!" Kelsey's attorney called out. "I'll rephrase," Paul said smoothly. "When did you first hear these concerns expressed?" The witness hesitated. "I suppose after they separated. By late afternoon, my shoulders ached from sitting ramrod straight, but I didn't let my posture slip." The judge cleared his throat, glancing at his watch. "We'll hear closing arguments first thing tomorrow morning," he announced. "Court is adjourned." The sunset painted the courthouse steps in deep orange as people filed out. I stood alone for a moment, looking up at the darkening sky. The air felt heavy with everything unsaid, everything proved. My whisper was barely audible, even to myself. Let truth hold. The evidence was strong, but tomorrow would decide everything. One more night of uncertainty stretched ahead before the final word would fall. The morning sun streamed through the courthouse windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor. I straightened my tie one last time, remembering how many mornings I'd done the same gesture at home while Kelsey watched. Amazing how familiar motions could feel so different now. Paul rose to deliver his closing argument, his stance confident but not arrogant. "Your Honor, this case presents a clear pattern of deception and financial misconduct." His voice filled the courtroom with quiet authority. "The evidence before you shows not just infidelity, but calculated fraud." I watched him lay out our case with surgical precision. Each piece of evidence clicked into place like tumblers in a lock. The hidden invoices proving Kelsey's substantial unreported income, the lease agreement listing Trevor as her partner, bank statements showing transfers to secret accounts under her maiden name. "Mrs. McCord didn't just conceal her earnings," Paul continued, gesturing to the exhibits. "She actively manufactured a false narrative of financial dependence while planning her exit strategy with significant assets." Kelsey shifted in her chair, her face flushing. "That's not—" She started to interrupt. The judge's gavel cracked sharply. "Mrs. McCord, you will remain silent during closing arguments." I kept my gaze fixed forward, refusing to look at her. The familiar scent of her perfume drifted across the aisle, but it no longer held any power over me. I thought of all the nights I'd caught that same scent when she came home late, making excuses I'd wanted so badly to believe. Paul's voice remained steady. "Your Honor, the evidence demonstrates that Mrs. McCord's claim of career sabotage was fabricated after the fact to support her alimony demand. The timeline of witnesses confirms this manufactured grievance." The courtroom fell silent as Paul concluded. Even the usual shuffle of papers stilled. The judge removed his reading glasses, studying both sides of the room before speaking. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, he began, his tone measured. "I find the following. The petition for divorce is granted." My heart thundered in my chest. Furthermore, given the clear evidence of financial misconduct and deliberate concealment of assets by Mrs. McCord, I am denying her request for alimony. The judge's voice hardened. "All marital assets are awarded to Mr. McCord, as Mrs. McCord's actions constitute fraud upon this court." The silence deepened. I released a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Beside me, Paul squeezed my shoulder once, a gesture of quiet victory. Across the aisle, Kelsey slumped in her chair, her carefully maintained composure cracking. Her attorney whispered something, but she didn't seem to hear. Trevor stood abruptly, his face dark with fury. "You said this wouldn't touch me," he hissed at Kelsey. The judge's eyes snapped to him, but Trevor was already storming toward the exit, leaving Kelsey alone at the table. I watched her sit there, shoulders curved inward. All her schemes collapsed to dust. The woman who'd tried to take everything from me now had nothing. No lover, no alimony, no share of our assets. Just the consequences of her own choices. The victory tasted clean. Not sweet, not bitter, just right. Like truth finally coming to light. The drive home felt different. Each familiar turn brought me closer to a house that was now truly mine alone. No more wondering what secrets lurked behind closed doors. No more listening for late-night excuses. Just peace, earned through patience and truth. I pulled into the driveway as the evening sun painted long shadows across my front lawn. The grass needed cutting. Funny how normal tasks felt like freedom now. Every choice would be mine, every space my own to fill. Walking up the path, I remembered all the times Kelsey and I had made this same journey. Weekend groceries, holiday decorations, daily routines that had seemed so permanent. But permanence, I'd learned, was built on truth, not wishes. The memory of her perfume still lingered faintly in my mind, mixing with autumn leaves and cooling air. But even that was fading now. The front door opened smoothly, welcoming me home. Inside, the silence wrapped around me like a blanket. Not the tense quiet of recent months, but something peaceful, natural. The house felt lighter somehow, as if Kelsey's deception had been a physical weight pressing down on every room. I moved through the living room, past the couch where we'd sat that night. I confronted her about Trevor. Past the dining room table where I'd laid out those damning hotel receipts. Each spot held a memory of confrontation, but they didn't sting anymore. They were just markers on a path that led to justice. In the kitchen, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a single brass key. The metal caught the last rays of sunlight streaming through the window as I set it on the counter. Such a small thing to represent such complete victory. My fingers traced the key's edges. Everything I'd built, everything I'd protected, crystallized in this moment. Not just the house and assets, though securing those felt damn good, but my dignity, my truth, the knowledge that I'd faced betrayal with principle instead of rage. The image of Kelsey in that courtroom flashed through my mind, slouched in defeat as Trevor stormed out, leaving her to face the wreckage of her schemes alone. No alimony, no assets, no affair partner to cushion her fall. A complete reversal of the future she'd planned to steal. The brass key gleamed steadily on the counter, and I felt something settle in my chest. A calmness I hadn't known since before the first hint of perfume that wasn't hers, before the first unexplained hotel charge, before I learned that anchors could rust. Standing in my kitchen, I took a deep breath. The air felt clean, purified. No more lies floating like dust motes in the sunset light. No more practiced excuses echoing off the walls. I rested my hand on the brass key, feeling its solid weight beneath my palm. The metal was warm now, alive with possibility. Calm truth outlasts every lie, I whispered to the quiet house. And for the first time in months, I felt what Kelsey never could. Peace built on justice, won through patience, protected by truth. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.